So which HQ choices are you using in your Death Guard army? I'm going to give you one choice you should be using and 5 reasons why you should be using them. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Hello again, Tabletop Warriors, and welcome back to the Plague Den. My name's Tony, and this is my continuing video series where we explore the 40K universe one model at a time. As we talked about earlier, today's model is an HQ choice from the Death Guard army, Typhus. And I'm going to give you 5 reasons, strategies, and tips that you should be using with him in your Death Guard army. If you're new to this channel, welcome, and please consider subscribing for more videos just like this. Let's get right to it. Okay, so full disclosure here before we get into this video, I'm super partial to Typhus. He's probably one of my favorite characters. He's at least in the top 3. I love the fact that he flies around in the Terminus Est and the Horus Heresy driving that ship, and he's part of the Plague fleet that's been wreaking havoc all over the place. And I love his love-hate relationship with Mortarion, where he just kind of does what he's told, but he also kind of rebels against them all the time. And I just think he's a great character. So, and also, as I said in my other videos, we're not looking to like break the meta here. I'm just going to give you some strategies that I think that you can use to be better with your Death Guard army in your local gaming store or your circle of people that you're playing with. He's a good HQ, but like I said, I don't even think he's certainly not in the national meta for 40K and a tournament, in a lot of tournament lists. Okay, so here we go with number 1. Number 1, if you're only going to take a couple of HQs, let's say you're running a battalion with a lot of units in it, and you're really only looking to have 2 HQs, Typhus is a great choice because he's very well rounded. He's got the +2, +4 saves. He's got the psychic ability. He's very killing in combat with his Man Reaper and some of his abilities when he's actually in combat. So he's a very well-rounded character to have if you're only going to go with a couple of HQs. Now, if you're running a battalion and you have a couple of detachments and you're going to run 4 or 5 different characters, HQ characters, then you probably want to be more specific on picking HQs that do specific things. Like obviously a Demon Prince is more killy. He is the Lord that gives the rerolls on ones that hit. So you can take more specific HQs if you're taking more, but if you're only going to take a couple, he's very well rounded. All right, so number two is Typhus's ability to interact with Poxwalkers. Now, I've talked about this before in my 5 tactics and tips to improve your Death Guard army. But with Poxwalkers, if you're going to take them in groups of 20 or even 1 unit of 20, Typhus is a great HQ. He gives them the +1 strength, +1 toughness. He can move with them. They're both kind of slow. You can slog up the battlefield, or you can take the Poxwalkers and put them in a Rhino and deep strike Typhus in when you need him to put those buffs. Obviously, he can use his Psyker abilities to do Miasma of Pestilence or Putrescent Vitality on the Poxwalkers and make them better. His whole interaction with Poxwalkers is kind of his thing. I've talked about Poxwalkers in another video, so I won't get into that, but they are a great troop choice, and Typhus is a great HQ, and their synergy together is extremely good. Number 3 is the Nurgle's Gift rule. Now, the way that you can use this rule, any unit that's within 7 inches, that is within an inch of an enemy unit, so if they're within 7 inches of Typhus and they're within an inch of an enemy unit, you get to roll for a mortal wound on that unit on a 4+. Now, if you use your units like Poxwalkers or Cultists or even Plague Marines and you string them out for combat and they're all within 7 inches, you could possibly have 3 different units in combat all within that range of Typhus and all doing those mortal wounds every turn. This also stacks with his Living Plague Warlord trait. Anything within 3 inches of him, he's also doing mortal wounds too at the start of any fight phase. So that's not just your fight phase, but your opponent's fight phase as well. So those 2 things stack together, and you can certainly exploit those 2 rules to your benefit to be doing mortal wounds every turn without having cast any psychic abilities or smite or any of that. By positioning your models right and making sure they're within that 7 inches. Number 4, Number 4 is going to be his ability to deep strike. Now you can use this ability to your advantage in a lot of different ways. As I said earlier, get your Poxwalkers into position with the Blightbringer, using that advanced rule. Get them up to where you want to be. Deep strike Typhus in. Cast your Psyker abilities. He gives them the +1 strength, +1 toughness. You can use the Putrescent Vitality to give him an extra +1 strength, +1 toughness. He's there. He's given the buff. And the Poxwalkers can do their thing. This also works good with Terminators. You can use them with the Death Shroud Terminators. You can deep strike them with Blightlord Terminators. Maybe your opponent thinks twice about charging your Blightlords if they know Typhus is in there, because he's pretty good in combat. And then you can get even more advanced if you want to use like just a Chaos Lord that isn't necessarily Death Guard, and try to get the warp time, use them with Blightlords or Death Shroud and try to get warp time in there to get him into combat faster. There's a lot of different things you can use with his deep strike, which is called teleport, but basically it's deep strike. Set him up 9 inches away. So really look into ways that you can exploit that if you aren't using them with Poxwalkers and you're kind of looking for different ways to use them. So number 5 is going to be that Destroyer Hive pistol. Make sure you're using that to the best of your advantage. It is a 2d6 pistol, strength 4, -3 AP. It does 1 damage. It always hits on a 5+, even for Overwatch. So making him in position for Overwatch is great. You have the 2+ ballistic skill. I mean, he's usually always hitting on 2s and always wounding on 4s, usually, sometimes 5, sometimes 3s, but typically 4s, and -3 AP, typically they're not even going to get a save. And you can use that pistol in combat, so that thing is a beast. The other part of this is, number 5, is don't be afraid to just kind of stick him in the middle of everything, to be given that 7-inch buff to everybody, using the Destroyer Hive pistol, charging and getting into combat whenever you think he needs to be in combat, and doing that Living Plague as a Warlord trait. I mean, don't hold him back and try to protect him. I mean, he's meant to be in the middle of the thick of things, just getting into it with everybody. So keep that in consideration as how you can use him and how you can best deploy him with your different units to make him the most effective. So there you go. There's 5 strategies to use Typhus to make your Death Guard army better. Ways to use them and some tips for how to use them. Like I said, I'm biased. I love the model. I don't necessarily love the new model, the new Typhus model. I think he's got tiny little hands. I like the old model. I know there's some different ways that you can make him. I've seen some people make him out of the Lord of Contagion. I know there's some non-GW models. One just came out that was kind of supposed to be Typhus. So I'm not a big fan of the new model, but I am a big fan of Typhus. Actually, back in 5th edition, I would just kind of I used to roll him around in a Land Raider all by himself. I called it Typhus's whip, and he just basically rolled up in a Land Raider by himself most of the time. So please comment down below and talk about how you're using him, or if you use him, or if you have some different strategies, or you prefer other HQs. I know there's other HQs that are better, especially in terms of what they're specifically good at, but I don't think that there's anyone in the Codex that is as well-rounded as Typhus is. So let me know how you're using them. Let me know some strategies that you're using. And once again, if you like this video, please like it. Subscribe for more videos from the Plague Den. Until next time, win all your battles in life and on the tabletop. See you later.